Hello, Andrew. How are you
Hello,
doing?
good morning, Jane. I'm great. Happy Thursday. We've been saying happy Monday for months and months and months, but we get to say happy Thursday. This is our inaugural Thursday morning show.
I'm trying to think how long we've been doing this since September,
It was
almost
like,
2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago.
yeah, because we celebrated our 100th episode a couple months ago. Crazy. You'd think we'd be better at it.
It's so
Okay, we lost
true.
Jane. Sorry, we lost Jane. Yeah, so hey, today we're talking, well, we're going to talk about the stats as we always do, and then we're going to talk about maybe, what kind of approaches we might take for the buyer on pricing and strategy for making an offer, and
Right,
depending on
and
the
that's because
circumstances.
the market is all over the place right now, so we
Oh,
have
so
some
yeah,
places that haven't sold, and so buyers are coming in and taking a run at it, and other places that uh, have just come on the market and we're getting multiple offers. So
yeah,
what do we do in each situation? It's not very
yeah,
clear.
yeah. It's there's that saying like, if your only tool is a hammer, every problem is a nail. Um, And in the past, some of the past markets, we've been just, the only tool we've needed is a hammer in a sense, because we've been in one circumstance where um, everything is flying off the shelf. You need to get really strong in your multiple offers, and there's nothing waiting on market. There's no other strategies required. But now we're in a market where there's a lot of different kinds of products, and some are sitting on market for a long time, but there's still opportunities for multiple offers with well-priced homes. So, we need to look at all of the options now and think about what's the best strategy.
Okay, so let's get into what's going on with the market.
Mhm.
So, this, just so you know, this program has changed a little bit. So we're we're figuring some stuff out. Alrighty. So how do you come up with an offer price on a home? Well, first of all, let's talk about what's going on with the market.
Yeah, because it
Go
depends
ahead.
on the market
Yeah.
for sure. So, okay, well, I'll take this then. April 2023 so far, we're only at April 11th, one third of the way into the month, and we've had 159 unconditional sales. Compare that to the full month of April last year at 824. We've had 304 new listings come online this month so far, and compare again to 1,368. And then active listings were at 2,013. So still, that's definitely more than last year, which was 1,365. But it's certainly still not a lot of inventory for buyers to choose from.
hmm
Would you say
we were at our company meeting yesterday, and they were saying the market peaked in April. I really felt it peaked in March. What do you
this
think?
year? You mean, or last year?
Last year.
I felt it was March, and especially it might be what we see as closings might be starting to peak. April, May, June, but the actual market seems like it started to shift to me in March. But we'd have to go back and look at the stats.
Yeah, but it's so
But
what
at
I'm
that point,
seeing here from last year is that the number of listings were creeping up
mm,
last year, and we're still low on numbers right now because people want to get more than asking. Sellers want to get more than asking. All of my clients want to, and they need to change their mindset and pricing strategy because we're not getting more than asking in most cases.
yeah, I remember, '08, for example, and prices went down, and there were a lot of people who were underwater in the sense that they bought their houses and they were worth less than they were worth today at that time, and so they didn't want to sell because they knew they'd be losing money. They'd be losing their equity. They'd be losing their down payments. They just come out of this property with nothing. So there was less properties coming on market at the time. It was hard to get people into the mindset of selling to buy something else because they were actually stuck. And we're kind of moving into another similar situation where we're down off of our 2021 pricing. And I
Yeah.
think there are a lot of people who are just saying, well, there's no point to selling right now. I'm not going to be able to come out of it with anything that lets me make any kind of move.
Right. Well, those are people like you're always going to make money if you buy and hold over the long run. But if you want to flip a property like people were doing in the last few years,
Mm,
potentially, you're not going to be able to make that right now.
yeah, but there's also people who are, unfortunately going through, divorce or life changes that are they're negative, and they need to make a move. Um, lost their jobs or not able to pay their mortgages because the interest rates are higher,
Yeah.
and but they're not going to be able to sell their home and come out of it in a better financial position because they haven't been in them long enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the next one. This is looking at the past 7 days on the market. So we had 241 new listings, 126 pending. So list to sale ratio is looking great for sellers. But as we said, it's a very price sensitive market. And so you can't just ask what you want. You have to ask what the market will bear.
Mm.
Price, this is showing up where the price decreases are 62. So
Mhm.
people are having a check and they're coming down in price. And then price increases are 7. I know one of them was on the market yesterday for $146,000, and
Right.
apparently a realtor connected with the listing realtor, and she's like, "I'm already on it." She got a lot of calls.
I remember first being licensed and seeing some of these properties come up that were like, "Oh my god, that's such a good price. Is that real?" And you're just like calling the agent, "Can I get in? Can I have a look at this place? It's $46,000 instead of 460."
That's when 460,000 was high.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so regular offers. So a regular offer happens when the house has been on the market probably 1 or 2 weeks and it has no competition. Sometimes this happens when we've had holidays or um, perhaps, there's been other properties that have been getting more traction. And so this one's kind of slipped under the radar. And so a buyer asks to see it, you go in and it suits their needs.
Yeah, if I could, when you're saying regular offer, you kind of, what we're talking about here is just your run of the mill home. It's been marketed relatively well. The price point isn't far out of line. Um, but it just may take some time for, buyers are not moving super fast. It may just take some time for the right buyer to come along. But this is just business as usual. Is it kind of what
Yeah.
you're referring to? Yeah.
I call this the Dodge Caravan of homes.
Okay.
They're the bread and butter listings that, you know, the BC box, or I really like these listings actually
Yeah, me too.
because yeah, because
They're-
the product well, there's not a lot of variation.
and it's just families, it's there's a real story there behind people wanting to buy. It's real life. People are looking for just a good solid family home. And there's people who are selling their good solid family home to move on to other things. And yeah, it's a nice, as you say, it's sort of the standard fare, and that's actually one of the most fun parts of the business for me.
Right. So the psychology behind the offer, let's say it's priced at right now, um, maybe 900 or $1 million. And so you're going to go in and you're going to say, okay, well, it's one of many. We happen to like this one. Maybe we'll come in at or just slightly under asking price, right? Because we have two weeks on the market, it hasn't sold.
Right. So you're probably not going to offer above asking price because why would you? There's no competition at this time on it. So your options are really, to try to negotiate something off the price or to offer them the price, just do business and move on with it. I guess, and partly it has to do with the motivation of your buyers and their timelines, and also what else is out there on the market. So what's your process? Let's talk about our processes for for kind of coaching our clients around an offer on something like this.
So I wouldn't come in at full price,
Hmm.
and I would come in a little under because I don't want the seller to think that they underpriced it. So sometimes you just need to work a little for the seller to and the buyer both to feel good about getting what they're getting.
Right.
The buyer perspective is, well, it's 2 weeks on the market, it hasn't sold. So why would I offer full price? And the seller perspective is it's only 2 weeks on the market. Why would I not get full price?
Yeah. Yeah. So as you said, there's a lot of psychology in this. And I mean, and then there's also just the objective information you can gather about what else is sold in the area. What's the market doing? How does this compare to other homes you've seen with your clients? And, how much do they want it? But you do
Right.
have to wear the hats and put yourself into the headspace of, who is the realtor on the other side? What's their general approach? Who are the sellers? What's their motivation, if you can determine that? But it does make a lot of sense. I've seen, even properties that are just first on market. And if you come in right at asking price, they might say, oh, maybe I underpriced it. They're willing to buy this just immediately at my full asking. So you got to balance that. And even in this regular offer situation, you have to balance that against um, the seller just saying, well, I want to get my full price. I'm just gonna, I don't want to negotiate.
Right. So what we do for a market analysis in this case is look at, because it's the Dodge Caravan, we look at all the other homes that are for sale. It's easy to usually find comparables. We look at what the list and sale prices were, and also how far back in the market it was. So right now I'm not going too far back in the market because I'm finding that with the interest rate settling out over the last two announcements, the market has shifted again. So I'm not going to go back to December or November.
Different market. Yeah.
Different market.
So I think in terms of proximity, how close is the proximity, not just in physical location, but also in time when I'm looking for comparable properties.
Yeah. And you're likely to get a deal. And I don't mean that in terms of cheap. I mean that in terms of you're going to come to an agreement and you're going to close relatively easily on that, and both sides will be happy.
Now, this property's been on market for, a few weeks. It could have been overpriced and way overpriced. And if your buyers aren't buying it today, it might still be on market 3 months from now. We do this market analysis. And when we talk about the pricing offer that we're going to make, it could be that it's really clear that the sellers are way off base in their price. So do you wait for them to sit on market and get softer, or do you try your offer now? This is some of the conversation you have with your clients. If it fits for your clients, then why not make the offer in the price point that's going to work for them? As long as yeah.
This is a regular offer.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. So let's just clarify then. A regular offer means that it's priced relatively well, because we haven't clarified that. You just say it's 2 days on market with no competition.
Yeah, 2 weeks. Yeah, and
it could be overpriced.
No, we're going to talk about the lowball offer next.
Okay.
Because yes, you want to. So the thing is you want to determine if it's priced well. That's why you're looking at the other comparables. And I always tell buyers, I know you probably tell them the same thing. If you think it's overpriced, then you wait. And then if it sells, you're going to be, or you are on the notification list for other, you have to ask to be on the notification list, by the way.
For offers. Yeah.
And if that happens, then you are going to pay more money. So the question is, do you want to wait, or do you want to wait till another offer comes in and pay more money?
So sorry, let's be clear here. You're saying, are we talking about this regular offer again still? Or are we talking? Okay.
Yeah.
But the house has been overpriced.
No. Okay. If you think it's being overpriced. And sometimes you're working with a buyer who is, from another market, and they're like, well, in Toronto, this would be 2 million. This is a deal. I'm going to write an offer now. That's partly what brought our market up over the last little while. Because
it is Vancouver and Toronto buyers came here, and just from their perspective, our homes were very cheap.
Yeah. Or if you have somebody coming from, I don't know, Yellowknife, they might say, this house looks very expensive. I think I'm going to wait. And so they wait. And that's what happens when prices come down. Then the sellers are a little softer. right? You have to look at average days on market, look at the price of the house, look at what's sold, and then come together.
Okay, well, let's move on and see what the next one is gonna. Okay,
Low ball.
right.
Okay, so we think it's overpriced now.
Okay, so it may be well priced, or it may be overpriced. It may be well priced, and we're writing a low ball offer, or it may be way overpriced, and we're writing an offer that we feel aligns with its actual value.
Usually, we can't do this. If we look at price over time, for the first, I'd say 2 or 3 weeks, sellers are going to stick to their price, and they don't have much price elasticity. And over time, there's going to be more flexibility on the seller's side
There's this,
and the buyer's side.
Yeah, there's this contrast between their vision of how this was going to go, and in the first couple of weeks, they have high hopes or they have expectations. They've consulted their realtors, perhaps up to 3 or more on price before they chose their realtor and put it up on market. And they have a sense of what it's going to sell for, and they've made plans around that. They're invested in it going for this price. If it's going to go for less, it changes what their entire, rationale for selling, perhaps. So the first couple of weeks, they're going to, hope springs eternal. They're going to hang on to that hope. It's only after the reality doesn't match their expectations that they might start to soften.
And sometimes, like as a listing agent, I find I get offers, and it's the same offer price time after time after time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we actually had this happen the other week on a listing that we had listed for, it had been listed for a long time. And there's 2 things that happen when a market shifts. So it can shift up or down, right? And depending on the time of year. And the market right now is shifting up. And so we made a gamble. We were given feedback. And so we did the work that the buyers felt needed to be done. And because we had
rather than change price, you changed the
appearance,
the interior. You did some work on it. Okay.
Yeah. So we put in new flooring and we painted it.
Right.
And this, so the psychology behind that was to elevate the value in terms of a buyer, to get away from having a lowball offer. Mm-hmm. And the seller perspective was that it was worth more. And we ended up getting $65,000 more. Great. Than the lowball offer.
But you started this with, sometimes you get a number of offers in the same price point, which would generally suggest this is the point where buyers are actually feeling the value is. Yeah. And so with that property, you were getting that, but then you were actually able to increase value by doing those changes.
Yeah, and they didn't cost the seller a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. But not the $65,000 for sure.
Not the $65,000.
Yeah. Okay, so lowball offers, you've been out looking at properties and you find one and you want to offer something significantly off the asking price. And so how do we approach that?
Well, to me, there's 2 strategies here. Mm-hmm. One is you can come in hard and come in significantly lower. And I say like 10 to 15%. And the seller will be like,
yeah. Sometimes you don't get a response. You get an emotional response. You get some choice words, those kind of things. Yes. Okay.
And the second is you come in under asking, maybe like 5% under asking, and you're looking at what else, how long it's been on the market, what else is sold, is it the only one left, or are there many like it? And then you come in where you think you can get an accepted offer, and then you have an inspection and you have a choice at that time.
Yeah. So when I'm writing an offer that is going to be off what the sellers are positioning themselves at for price, mm-hmm. whether there's some reason for them asking that high price. I've had some really interesting things. I'll make a side story I'll go into in a minute, but if you're coming well off the asking price, when I'm writing an offer like that, I do try to, yes, there's kind of 2 approaches. You could either go in hard and say, here's an offer, make a decision quickly. But it's usually hard for people to take that well. So they've been on market a while. You're coming in well off their asking price. You're asking them to really consider something different than their expectations. So I generally suggest to my clients, if we are taking the position that they're overpriced and nobody in their right mind would pay this price, then let's make an offer that matches what we feel it's worth, and give them some time to think about it. So generally, if we're writing an offer on a competitive property that's well priced, we don't want a lot of time for the seller to get other offers. But when I'm writing an offer like this, I will sometimes give them even a day or two to consider it, so that they know that we're not in a hurry. We're just saying, like, we'd like to do business, but we're not really super attached. You guys make a decision and get back to us.
Yeah, if you want to sell it, we're here for you.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and you have to understand, buyers are thinking from their own perspective. Sellers are like, I have to move into another place, or I have plans for this money.
Mhm.
And buyers are like, well, they made enough money.
They paid $460,000 for that back in 2003, and they're asking 1.2 million now.
Yeah. But the point is, they have to get another place as well.
They do.
So I often say to a buyer in this type of situation, you need to put yourself into the seller's shoes, and that helps.
It does help. Not everybody has the ability to, I guess, have empathy or think about those things. That's why we do what we do. We want to be able to put ourselves in all of these different positions and think about them so that we can come up with the best strategy based on that. And I think that's really important, and it's really helpful. Obviously, you want to understand your buyer's perspective, their wants and needs, and help to craft an offer that matches those, and then put it in front of the seller in a way that almost translates it into their language, that says, this is what my buyer's trying to do, and this is what we see, and this is what we'd like to end up with, and let's have this conversation.
And this is right now, like we were told by a lot of people last year when the interest rates were starting to go up. Oh, you know what? When are foreclosures going to start happening?
Mm-hmm.
And you can sell your house before you go into a foreclosure.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to know that you're going to be heading in that direction. And so you can, foreclosure means when you get to that point, you no longer will benefit from the profits of the house. So there are people right now. What?
You will.
In a foreclosure?
They don't just take the home from you. You're talking about conduct of sale, right?
Yeah.
So you still benefit from, if there's a profit on the home, you still get it.
As when you're no longer the owner.
You mean
when
that
it's gone to the lawyer and they're selling it for the bank. The seller doesn't benefit.
Yeah, so let's say you have $1 million property, you have a $500,000 mortgage. You could choose. You stop paying your mortgage. There's a conduct of sale. Most of the sales we see these days are conduct of sale, right? So there's a bank ordered sale.
Yeah.
It's still in the name of the seller. And after the sale happens, the seller doesn't have control over the sale process. But after the sale happens, anything after paying off the people who are owed money, the seller still gets the remainder.
But what if it goes at that point to they become the tenant?
As long as they've got an interest in the property, the bank isn't going to profit off this. It's just conduct of sale through the lawyer, through the bank.
You know what? I just assumed that the seller never gained a profit.
No, the seller. This is why all the court ordered sales are there, to protect the sellers. That's why they can't just take the first offer that comes in on the home. It's a $500,000 owed by the bank to the bank, and it's $1 million property. If the bank then accepts $600,000, walks away with $100,000 profit because they don't care. So no, that's why it has to be court ordered. It can happen, to be clear, that it can go, if they actually asked for and were granted an actual foreclosure where they actually got ownership of the home.
Yeah.
But it's really rare, and we don't generally see that here.
I've seen that in a couple of properties in Machosen and Langford, but interesting. I just learned something new. It's funny because I guess I don't see that side of,
No, yeah. But that's why it goes to court ordered sale, and that's why there's those protections in the court to protect those people who have not been able to pay their mortgages, but maybe because of situations outside of their control. Doesn't make
yeah,
them bad people, so they don't necessarily lose all their equity.
it's
It is hard though when there's no equity in the home. Like if someone was to have bought last year and try to sell today, stop paying their mortgage, and it goes to foreclosure, it could be that there's not enough money in the home to pay
yeah,
everything.
or they've declared bankruptcy.
Yeah, yeah. So, so these lowball offers, I mean, really, we say lowball, but it could be that it's actually a valid, appropriate offer price for what we see as the market value, or it could be an offer that's like way, way off asking price, and below market value. And there's a couple of different strategies for that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm just reflecting. That's so funny. I was like, anyway, thank you for that.
I'll send you some info on foreclosures.
Well, I understand the process. I just didn't understand where the money went. That's okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, the multiple offer. So this is when so we have both happening right now. So I will say in the lowball offer, what I'm finding with one of my clients is when we write an offer, the seller's in the low. I'll just go back in the lowball. The seller is saying, okay, we're going to accept this price, but we're not going to adjust our price if you find anything in the house. And usually there's a reason why nobody else has bought the house. And so when we get to the point where we've discovered that reason, now we can't go forward with it.
At least you've had a chance at it. But
pardon?
and what's funny is we're going to talk about multiple offers next in the next slide, as you showed, but we can have multiple lowball offers in this market. I'm seeing situations where properties are selling under asking price despite having gone to multiples. So just as a side note that, these aren't all single loves, they can actually combine.
So in a multiple offer, so if it's well priced and it's low days on market, then you are likely to go over asking. And last year and 2 and 3 years ago, we were going like 10 and 20% over asking. Now we're more likely to come in at asking price, I'm finding. Are you finding that? Or
yeah, when I looked, I've reviewed with clients while making offers, of course, and we look at, days on market, and when it has gone above asking price, it doesn't generally go much. And again, even in multiple offer situations, sometimes they're not achieving the full asking price. So people are really price sensitive, and a multiple offer is no longer a license to just get 100,000 or more above your asking. So.
And I just want to say, like in a multiple offer situation, or any, like when you're working with a seller, if you're keeping them informed of what's going on in the market, then they should have a reasonable expectation of what the house is worth. And same with all buyers. Like we're all looking at the same data here.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a seller who is not in touch with the market, who is not looking at the data that you're sending and is just picking a number out of the air,
yeah,
then they may have an expectation of multiple offers, and it may not come to fruition, or maybe the seller is underestimating the price of their home, and so you're all of a sudden you get all this activity, and they can panic a bit because they'll feel the pressure to sell from all the buyers, right?
Yeah. Sorry, while you were talking, I was in my head fantasizing. I've been trying to come up with an idea of how to describe pricing points, and it just finally came to me because I've tried to talk about products on a shelf before, but it never came fully. So let me just explain this. When you've got, let's say, you're going through the grocery store and you're going down one of the aisles and you're looking down the aisle of canned goods, and you're looking at a pile of let's say there's a row of cans of beans, all the same name brand, but they've got individual, the little clicker pricing on them, and they're all priced at $3 a piece. except there's one priced at $1. Somebody's mispriced it, and there's like a few hands reaching for it because that one is the best price. And then there's one priced at $5, and of course it's dusty and nobody's reaching for it, because you can see that there's all of this row of cans on the shelf, and you know, if you want it, it's $3. Every once in a while there's a good deal, it's on sale, but you're not going to reach for the one that's overpriced, whether that was accidental or not. And speaking of accidental, the story I was going to tell earlier was, early on I was working with sellers. They'd had their home listed once before. It had sat through a full listing contract, 3 or 4 months at least, with no price reductions. And you know, it obviously wasn't selling. And they said to me, you know, our agent didn't approach us once throughout this whole contract to talk to us about price and to suggest a price reduction.
Interesting.
And that was a real learning piece for me, because if that's the case, and how many other agents are doing this, where they're just sitting there and saying, well, my sellers will tell me when they're motivated, that my sellers will tell me what they need to do. But these folks were needing some guidance, and they weren't getting it. So they weren't able to make a good decision. So when we listed their home and got it sold, but we did have that conversation. And ever since, you know, I've always wanted to have that conversation with clients all the time. You know, here's where we're at. This is where I think we're going. What do you want to do about it? This is, I think, where we should be.
It's funny. There was a realtor. I'll tell you why listing agents don't do that, because they're afraid that they're going to get fired because they don't believe in the price.
Yep. And that's true. I've had that happen when I'm done even market analyses. When, you know, 3 agents are called in, maybe I'm the lowest but most realistic, and I don't get the listing, but I watch it list at a high price. I watch it sit forever. I watch it finally come down to a price where I was recommending, and then it sells. But I know that I could have saved that seller so much time and energy and heartache of all the keeping it clean and all the wondering if it's going to sell and all that stuff.
And you could have gotten them more money, because if it's priced well, you're more likely to get more money.
Multiple offers, a faster sale, better terms and conditions. Yeah, all of that. But the fact is that, yes, no, people are sometimes afraid. This is why I have lost listings where the sellers have said, well, we just don't think you are invested enough in our home. You're not interested enough in our home. You don't love it enough. It's like, well, loving it more isn't going to help it sell for more money.
Right. And sellers have this inflated, often, feeling of what their house is worth.
Careful.
And then, pardon?
I said, careful.
And buyers may have an opinion, but they're betting that the market's going to go down. Sellers are betting the market's going to stay or go up. So sellers often want to hold on to the price.
Yeah.
And, you know, sometimes feedback from another agent can kibosh your listing as well, if they come back and they're harsh.
Or sometimes it's funny, you know, like you'll have agents sometimes saying that this property is well priced over and over again, but it's really clear that nobody's bringing offers. So what's the problem with this property? Because usually it's something that can be fixed with price, or there is something like you did with your client's property. It really needs some care and attention to bring a different set of buyers into it who are aren't willing to do work, but are willing to pay a little more for something that's turnkey. Let's talk this multiple offers. I mean, I want to say there's always a conversation with my buyer clients around, you know, hey, we're writing an offer. There's other people interested in this property. So how can we align your offer to make it the best possible offer that you can make without you putting yourself into a dangerous situation or going beyond your means?
Right. And so that comes down, I think, to the CMA as well, because you also, the comparative market analysis, you want to make sure that you're not going to be offering too much for the home. And I found when the market shifted just after COVID, I remember an appraiser who I know quite well said to me, wow, the market's really going up. And she's like, do you think this price is valid?
Mhm.
You know, they're questioning, everybody is reacting rather than responding to the market. And so right now, I feel like the market's all over the place, and so you have to be careful with buyers right now because we don't know what's going to happen with interest rates. We don't know what kind of loan they're going to get, if they're going to get something fixed or variable, if they're going to be vulnerable or not. Like I think the qualifying rate's like around 9%. Somebody
Yeah.
said with the stress test. So it's
There was a time when people were making multiple offers because and saying, "Oh, well, I'm pre-qualified and for X amount, and the bank will lend me the money. Interest rates are low. I've got good income." And so they were making offers that were quote cash offers, saying, "I'll buy it." But they would go back in the background and go and get their financing after the fact, which honestly was pretty scary. But the risks at that time were lower than the risks today, where they're really high, stress tests and the high interest rates and the banks tightening their policies around lending. So it's not a given that you're going to get money today.
right. Yeah, and it's not a given that the market's going to go up, and so you
Yeah.
have to really make sure you're making a smart decision.
Yeah. So I tell
So
my clients, you're going into an offer, make, you know, I've had this happen over and over again where we write an offer, we find we lost the offer to someone else, and my clients say, "Oh, I would have paid that." And so I say to them, "Look, whatever that number is that you say I would have paid that, pay that number, okay? Not a penny more. I don't want you to say, 'Oh, darn it, I got the place. I won.' I want you to say, 'Okay, I'm happy I got it,' but I don't want you to say, 'Oh, darn, I would have paid more.'"
but so one of the things that buyers want to know when they go into a multiple offer is what is the process?
Mm.
And there is no process. The process is dependent on the realtor. So you can't say it'll happen this way or it'll happen that way.
No,
Like when you go into a foreclosure,
in the process.
previously you were able uh, to go in with one offer and then come back and write another offer. Now you have to go in with your best offer right off the bat.
There's
So
all Yeah, so it always depends on the seller and their agent in terms of how multiple offers are going to be presented. And I've had situations where you put in your offer and then you never hear anything back. They just talk to one other buyer who maybe brought the best offer, and then there's some back and forth. The sellers have three options: accept one of the offers of these multiple offers, reject them all, or counter one of those offers. But what happens in reality is we often get phone calls or messages from the other agent saying, you're in the
that's a
top
listing
three.
agent.
You're in the top three. We're sending them back to you. You put your best forward. I've had other agents call and tell me what the best offer is, or you're within $30,000 of the best offer, or you're within 10,000 of the best offer, or you're in the best position. They'll sometimes tell me. I'm like shaking my head. Why are you guys telling me this? And I had one situation where we wrote an offer. We weren't competing, so we wrote a good offer, but not competing. Another offer came in. It was a co-listed property, and the other agent didn't call to tell me that there was another offer because the other offer was higher, and it was going to just, I think, accept it. And then I got a call from the other co-list agent to say, "Oh, you should know there's another offer." And he told me what it was.
Oh boy.
My clients, we were already prepared. We had actually two offers prepared because we knew this property was going to go into multiple offers. We were willing to pay significantly higher than the asking price. Once we were told what that other number was, we just wrote it. I said, "Well, so if we beat that number, will your clients accept it?" And he said, "Yeah." Great. So we just wrote an offer $1,000 above that price. And this sucks, right? This isn't how real estate should be done.
I
And
can't even believe that.
no, but it happened, and my clients were ecstatic because they saved about $35,000. I was actually pissed off on behalf of the sellers, even though I was really happy for my clients, my buyers, because their agent lost them $35,000. But
Mhm.
these things happen, and as you said, there are rules. You need to follow your client's instructions. I don't know that in that case that agent did, but there are rules. Anyway, maybe I just said too much.
Well, I mean, nobody's perfect,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes, by the way, the listing agent needs to talk to the seller to inform them of this strategy if they're going to take that approach.
Yeah.
So, uh, Yeah. Anyway, it's, you know,
We don't know. I don't know what their instructions were from their seller. So that's just speculation. Perhaps they did have those instructions, but I did
yeah,
feel like that was a
yeah,
interesting. But the point is that, as you said, there's no rules in one sense. When you're in multiple offer situations, things do get a little fast and loose, and unfortunately, there are also rules in multiple offer situations. There are rules around cooperation. There's rules around communication, and they're there for that exact reason.
and if you're a buyer agent, by the way, if a listing agent says that there's more than one offer coming in on a property, you, before submitting your offer, you need to ask, is there still another offer on the property?
Can be
Because they do
rescinded.
not have to disclose that the other offer was withdrawn.
They don't. That I would say that would be a breach of ethics. But
Interestingly, it's so in our ethics course, we were advised that in Victoria, you don't have to tell people, but I mean, I would tell people.
I mean, if you're moving under the assumption that you're in a multiple offer situation and you're not, I think the other agent needs to tell you that, because, I mean, from my own ethical standpoint, I think that's just proper ethics. But if that's the rules, that's the rules. Rules don't always match ethics.
Yeah. So anyway, it was in our ethics course last year, and we were but you know, buyer beware anyway,
Mhm.
because sometimes people write the first offer and then another offer comes in. The first buyer goes, "I'm not going to write anymore. I'm going to withdraw." So just as a buyer agent, just say, "Is there another offer on the property still?"
So there is this Canadian Real Estate Association. Um, uh, um, they're partnering, or not. They're working with a company called Open, OPENN. It's an Australian company, and they have a format and a platform where you can upload and record multiple offers. So you, as the buyer, can register your offer on that property, not share the details publicly, but just have it registered. So you can also see what other registered offers are on that property and know that you truly are competing. And it does have the opportunity to turn it into more of an auction site if the seller does choose to actually open up the information about those offers. But it also can be more of a blind bidding, but at least you know that there's other offers on the table. And this has always been the challenge for a lot of buyers, is when they hear from their agent that there's another offer coming in, or there's 3 other offers coming in, they don't have access to that information themselves, and they don't necessarily always trust the process. And they say, well, is this just a ruse to get me to pay more, or to make
Yeah.
me give better conditions, or something like that?
And you know, that's why
Transparency can be a good thing.
that's why you always want to be a good person, because you don't want anyone to question your ethics.
Absolutely. And we most of my colleagues, I'd say I have a really good relationship, and I think I've got a pretty good sense of what's going on out there when something's happening. But if the little spider sense starts tingling, that's always an unfortunate thing, and it's something you want to communicate with your clients. So go into things eyes wide open.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Moving on. Okay, buy first or sell first. So when you are, I put 2 older people here.
They look happy though. They're doing the Toyota dance. Oh, what a feeling! Do you remember that? Do
Yes.
you remember the Toyota dance?
Yes.
Yeah. Only old people. Wait a sec.
We're old
Whatever.
people.
Okay, thanks.
We can identify with this. Okay, so I always get asked this question, and the thing is that if you write a subject to sale offer, to me, you have to give the seller some consideration and saying, you know what, here's your price. I want your house. I'm going to offer your price or close to it, or
Okay.
maybe even more. And I've had that happen. And I've had a buyer agent who didn't understand the process. And I said, a second offer is coming in, just so you know. And they said, okay, well, we want to increase our price. I was like, that's a good strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So the point is, the subject to sale is that the first, the seller has to believe that you as a buyer agent and the buyer will sell their property. So they have to trust that you're going to list the property at a good price and that you're going to sell it in a reasonable amount of time. And the thing is, if a second offer comes in, you can be bumped off your offer. The first buyer can be bumped off their offer, but the seller is negotiating the second price. And I always tell people, when you're second in line and you're trying to bump the first offer, that the seller will try to get you to the point where the first offer price is at.
Mhm.
And so that's why you want to make your first offer price good, because the second buyer offer price will have to come up to match you. And if it's been like, 6 weeks on the market or whatever, then you don't want to be, you can't get a deal, because they'll be like, oh, I can't wait to get
We
another
could do
offer.
a whole show on subject to sale offers, Jane,
Yeah.
because there's so many subtleties to that, and how, it can be a benefit to make a subject to sale offer. A seller might benefit from accepting a subject to sale offer, because the only way they're going to get their asking price is because someone is going to hope that they can sell their home for enough to be able to afford this other overpriced home. There's the domino effect of that. There's so much going on with subject to sale offers, but ultimately, if you have to sell before you can buy, then you need to, and you don't want to buy until you're sold, then you need to get somebody on the table to agree to buying your home. And
Right.
the only way to do that is to accept that subject to sale. And there's sometimes, our sellers will sometimes add something onto that contract that says subject to the seller then subsequently buying a home, which makes it very ambiguous for the buyer who's trying to buy that home.
And
this domino is really loose.
The daisy chain.
Yeah.
And that puts the buyer in the perspective of the seller's shoes at that point, because they go, oh my God, they have to find a place.
Yeah.
And I've seen transactions collapse where a person has put that in, and it's they're not going to get a great offer from a buyer if they put that condition in, unless they already have an offer on a property and they just need to go unconditional on it.
Yes, and this is always the thing, is the spark gap. Like, you're trying to bridge the gap for a spark to be able to happen. And if it's too wide, there's not going to be a spark. You need to be able to have something where, okay, I can actually see this happening. It's possible that even though these sellers are saying I need to be able to buy a home, but they're already conditional on a home, so we're going to know within a week. We've got some confidence that this is going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's easier to accept than subject to the sellers buying a home within the next 4 months. Right?
Yeah.
You just don't know if you're even moving or if you've bought a home. Have I bought a home? Haven't I? I don't know if I've bought a home. These guys say that they'll accept my offer, but they're out looking for a home and I haven't heard that they found anything, and I won't know for 4 months, but I got to make plans. Jane, I got to go. I've got some calls to make before 10:30. Can we move this forward? Sorry, folks, but I think we're almost done here.
Okay. So if you do like our show, we're on every Thursday morning at 9:30. Please like the show, subscribe to our podcast on YouTube, and comment if you have any questions that you want us to answer. We'd be happy to. And don't forget to share it with your friends. Andrew.
If anyone wants to reach me, reach out. I'm at 250-360-6106. You can email me, info@andrewplank.com. My website has lots of resources. That is andrewplank.com. And I'm on Instagram under Plank Andrew, again, where you will see lots of pictures of my cats.
And I only know one cat named Sid. Okay, my name's Jane Johnston. My number is 250-744-0775. I can be reached at briarhillgroup@gmail.com. You can come and visit my beautiful website, briarhillgroup.com, or you can watch this and more at victoriarealestateshow.com. And on Instagram, I'm at realtyteacher_remax_ Victoria. Please follow me.
Thanks for underscoring that.
Have a great week, and we'll chat with you soon.
Thanks,
Bye.
Jane. Always good.